I wrote JAMB twice, and as a fourth-year medical student, I've written so many exams, some which I prepared very well for, some which I didn't. And I can tell you there are tips and tricks that will help increase your chances of scoring higher in every MCQ examination like UTME, the JAMB you're about to write. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. Mind you, this video is not to encourage you to not prepare adequately for your exam, but I believe that every single mark is worth earning. And one single mark could just be what is going to save you and make you meet the cutoff marks. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about 7 tips that will help you better approach answering UTME questions, and 4 tricks that will increase your chances of picking the right answer even when you do not know the question. You're welcome to the channel, and I'm so happy to see your beautiful face again. If you're new here, I'm Wealth. I'm currently a 4th year medical student of University of Ibadan. Actually, in a few months time, I'm going to be in my 5th year. And I need a little favor from you, please. The favor is for you to please like this video first and subscribe to this channel. I think we can get to 50k subscribers very soon, and you can help us get there. So please subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. And one thing I'm going to promise to do in return is to keep making videos that are helpful and keep improving the qualities of those videos. So now let's talk about the tips first. Tip number 1 is a no-brainer, is to prepare adequately for your exam. So preparing adequately for your exam includes studying the proper study material and practicing a lot of past questions. I've made a lot of videos on how to actually study and practice a lot of past questions. So I'm not going to repeat that in this particular video. But one thing I want to emphasize is that practicing a lot of past questions actually helps. It helps you familiarize yourself with the exam. If you can even do it under a condition similar to what the examination is going to be, it helps you. So you can check some of my old videos on how to prepare adequately for your exam. That is the first step to actually doing very well in your MCQ. The next set of tips are things you're going to do right in the exam hall. Next is to start with your strengths when you get to the exam hall. You know you're going to be having 4 subjects. You'll be provided 4 subjects, English and any 3 other subjects you choose. So for everybody, I believe by now you already know what subjects you are stronger in, you know better, and you know what areas you're weak. So it's advised to start with the subjects you know more. And the reason for this is because when you start with something that you find easier to do and you're actually doing it well, you see the first question, you know the answer, you see the second question, you are pretty sure of the answer. This actually increases your confidence and it increases your morale. It makes you feel like, oh, I got this exam, I'm going to do it very well. On the other hand, if you start with something that is so difficult, at the beginning of the exam, you can just be like, wow, have I not failed this exam? Meanwhile, there are questions that you can actually answer. There are a lot more questions you can answer. It just happens that the first few questions are difficult. So the next tip is also similar to this one. It is to not waste too much time on each question and skip questions you do not know. Like I've said before, I see this a lot in many exams I've written. For example, the exam is question 1 to 100. The first 5 questions I'm coming across in the exam are so difficult. I'm just looking at it like, wow. The first question, I don't know the answer. Second question, I don't know the formula. Third question, I don't know the answer. This thing tends to demoralize me in the exam hall, but me knowing that there are 95 other questions I've not checked, I should not use the first 5 questions to judge. So what I do in that stead is to just take note of what questions I'm skipping. If it is a written paper, I'm just going to cycle the question. But in your exam, there are green bars and red bars that will show you that you've not answered a particular question, so you don't need to cycle anything. Just skip the question you find difficult. And one interesting thing about our brain is that once you've read a question, even if it is difficult, your brain keeps processing the question on the ground. So when you skip that question to other questions that are not as difficult, your brain is still processing that question that was difficult. And by the time you are done with the simpler ones, or the ones you are sure of, or the ones you know very well, when you come back to the difficult ones, it will be easier for you to actually think and reason them out. So this is going to save your confidence and also going to save your time. So note that if you get to your exam hall and you come across question that is difficult, that is not the end of the exam. That does not mean you are going to fail or you failed the exam already. There are still questions that you've not seen that are simple. Now, tip number 4 is to use your time wisely. We know that this exam is limited by time. So back to the first tip, which is preparing adequately. You should actually learn to be time conscious when preparing for the exam. So when you get to the real exam, you know how to manage your time. You're going to be provided 120 questions and you are given 2 hours. So I want you to calculate what time is required to solve one question. But one thing you should know for sure is this: the complexity of the questions are different. the time required for each questions are also different. So it is not possible to actually spend the same equal amount of time on all the questions. If you are doing a calculation subject, there are some calculations that will take you up to 2 minutes to solve, while there are some questions less than 30 seconds. You already know, if you know it, you already know the answers. One thing to know is that for the simple questions that require less time, it's going to afford you more time to solve questions that require a lot of time. That is why you should also try to start with the ones you know, so that you are not going to waste so much time trying to solve things that are so complex for you. You can always come back to them. The next tip is to read the question carefully, and also pay attention to some certain words like not, always, only, because these words can change what the question means, and if you omit those words, we are going to get the answer wrong. For example, they could say, which of these is not a human? That is different from which of these is human. Please pay attention to any negative term or any conditional word in your sentence, because this could change the meaning of the question and therefore the answer. When you are in your exam, or actually sit down carefully, try to be focused. Like at the time, make sure your mind is 100% focused on what you're doing. So the next tip is to try to answer the question in your mind as you are reading it, even before checking the options. As you are reading the question, think about the question you're reading, and if you can't, try to answer it immediately. But this does not work all the time. Sometimes you might need the option as a clue to actually remember or fully understand the question. But when you can't, try to answer the question before looking at the option. The reason for this is because some options are meant to confuse you, and they can make you talk yourself out of picking the right answer. But that does not mean you should not look at all the options properly. If you read the instruction in MCQ exam, they say pick the best option. Sometimes two options can actually seem correct, but one seems more accurate. One is the best. So if you first saw the one that is seeming like it's correct, and you did not see the one that is most accurate, you probably will just miss the question out. So after reading the question and you've kind of answered it in your mind, look at all the options too before picking a final answer, and try to not waste too much time on each question. I'm just reiterating this again. Number 7 is to answer all questions. UTME JAMB is not a negative marked examination. There are some examinations that are negatively marked. Maybe in your higher institution you're going to come across this kind of exams, but not UTME. So it means you should answer all questions. Try to pick an option in all of the questions, because if you leave a question blank, you are guaranteed to score 0 in that question. But if you pick an option, there is a 0.25% chance that you're actually going to pick the right option. And even if you don't know the answer, try to make an educated guess. I'm going to talk about this in a moment. So now let's talk about the 4 tricks you can use to increase your chances of picking the right option, even if you do not know the answer. The first thing is elimination method. This is something I do for many of or all of my MCQ exam, and it helps a lot. When you read the question and you're looking at the option, one way to increase the chance of actually picking the right option is to cancel out the options that seem more wrong to you. There are usually options that will seem totally wrong, and you know that okay, this option cannot be right. Cancel it out. Now you are left with 3 options, which means your chances of actually picking the right option is 1/3, which is higher. You can further look at it that okay, there's another option. This option also cannot be the answer. Then you are going to be left with 2. When you have 2 options, your chances of actually picking the right option is even further increased. This is one way of making educated guess. Always try to do elimination as much as possible, especially when you are not sure of what the right option will be. Trick number 2 is deriving a formula from the options. For calculation subjects like physics, maths, and sometimes chemistry, when you look at the option, the units can help you know what the formula is. Example,
I want you to pause this video and see how I'm going to analyze and solve this question.
but I want you to actually pay more attention to this when you are practicing past questions. You will see that there are sometimes you can derive a formula just from the units in the option. The next trick is to pick the options that seem odd. This works a lot in English. For example, if you look at all the options and maybe 3 of the options seem like positive words and the 4th option seems like a negative word, then the 4th option, which is the odd one, is most likely the correct answer. This works a lot for use of English. The 4th trick is all of the above or none of the above rule. If a question has the 4th option, which is all of the above, and out of the 3 other options you see an option you are very sure is wrong, then you know that that option will be cancelled out. All of the above will also be cancelled out, and you are going to be left with two options, and your chances of picking the right answer is increased. The same applies to none of the above. If there's none of the above in the option and you are sure one option is definitely correct, then you know that none of the above is wrong. These are some tips and tricks that are proven to work, but your best bet is actually preparing adequately, studying very hard for your exam. But I believe it's good to know this thing, as they can actually be of help sometimes and increase your chances of actually scoring higher in the exam. I hope you actually found this video helpful. I'm very excited to know if you did. And please like this video again if you've not yet done that, and subscribe to this channel. Let us get to 50,000 subscribers. Yeah. Also share this video to groups or to students you think will find it helpful. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.